Coming your way from New Orleans, American Farm Bureau, their annual convention, 100th annual. Jim Bartles here from the Ingstead, Minnesota Radio Network, and Dan Glessing, Vice President of Minnesota Farm Bureau, is with me from Waverly, Minnesota. We've talked a number of times in the past, and Dan, we were talking about your involvement with Farm Bureau. It goes back a long ways. You were in the Young Farmer and Rancher program in Minnesota and also nationally, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We got our start, my wife and I, Sina, got our start in the YF&R program, started going to the conferences that, for instance, our LEAP conference, our leadership conference, is coming up in a few weeks here in the cities. That's where we kind of started our Farm Bureau career, you might say, and had the opportunity to serve on the state Young Farmer Rancher Committee for 3 years, and then ended up being selected to be on the American Farm Bureau Young Farmer Rancher Committee for a 2-year term. So that's where we got our start, and it's a great leadership program to kind of bring out leadership skills you might not known you had.
Obviously, a lot of involvement on the national level too. I'm sure when you come to a convention like this, you're re-hooking up with people who are in dairy as you are, or other things, and sharing stories and information that is useful back home.
Yeah, it is. It's nice to see the old friends, and then they bring friends along, and you meet them, and so you come home with a few more friends after each annual meeting. But it is nice to talk about the problems that you're having. You know, from our case in Minnesota, with friends in Mississippi, Virginia, South Carolina, we've got friends all over the nation that it is nice to talk through and know that you're not alone in some of the troubles. Sometimes it's commodity specific, but a lot of times it's just agricultural wide issues, and it's just nice to visit with others to see what they're doing to try and combat some of the problems and get different ideas to bring back home.
Dan, let's touch briefly on a few things involving farmers and Farm Bureau. First of all, the Farm Bill and dairy. You're in dairy farming, of course. Your outlook on that?
Yeah, no, the Farm Bill provided some great improvements to the what used to be called the MPP program, and under that $5 million cap, it's pretty attractive and can get you up to a break-even mark in dairy, which is kind of nice after having kind of dancing that break-even, under break-even line for quite some time already. Glad to see it. Thanks to Colin Peterson for all the work he done on that, and he's instrumental, of course, being the chair now. But all the way through, he's been a leader for us, and we want to thank him.
Farm Bureau's got their fingers in a lot of things, but also they're pretty active in the dairy side of the farming as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a new revenue protection program that economists at American Farm Bureau kind of helped develop along with Myron Bozick. He and the American Farm Bureau staff came up with this program. It's something to look at. It's certainly another avenue to try and help get those dairy prices a little higher for us.
Dan Glessing is our guest from Waverly. We're here in New Orleans having our conversation. The elections are passed. We got new administration. That always means some new things in building bridges with people.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited to work with Tom Peterson, the new Commissioner of Ag in Minnesota. No stranger to farms and farming, so glad to see somebody who understands farming is in that spot, as well as Congressman Walz, nice rural person, which is from the outstate Minnesota, is kind of nice to see as well. It gets farming a little better than somebody who doesn't come from outstate.
Last quick topic: tax conformity and the farmers.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the top of our minds as we head to St. Paul. Those tax cuts on the national level were nice, but aren't going to do us a lot of good if we don't get some conformity, and it's a bit of a mess right now as far as for the tax preparers. But I'm thinking, as high of a priority as it is for a lot of the elected officials in St. Paul, something will get done here this session, hopefully. So it's definitely top of our minds as far as farmers. Taxes are key to a lot of profit or not so much profit. So.
Dan Glessing, thanks for your time. Thanks for your work for Farm Bureau, but also just in general on behalf of farmers all over America and certainly in Minnesota as well.
Yeah, no, thank you, Jim, for coming down and seeing what you can and doing these interviews. It's nice to have you here.
Well, advocating for agriculture is important for all of our radio stations, just like it is for the farmers as well. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Along with Dan Glessing from Waverly, Jim Bartles here from New Orleans, and the American Farm Bureau 100th Annual Convention.